Good evening and welcome to Plain Talk. My name is Christopher Ram. Thank you for joining me for the next hour. As you know, on this coming Sunday, Guyana will celebrate 53 years of independence. And as you will see from the screen, in a rather rhetorical manner, we ask 53 years of independence, what progress? I have two guests this evening to answer that question, to support or contradict that statement. Mr. Gerald Perreira, political activist, commentator, and Mr. Lincoln Lewis, trade union leader, and very prominent contributor to the letter columns of the newspapers. Gentlemen, welcome to Plain Talk.
Thank you.
Now, it's very true that the majority of Guyanese will not have experienced that evening in the national park when the Union Jack was lowered for the last time.
Correct.
And we gained independence. So the majority of Guyanese have known nothing but an independent Guyana. We know the great leaders of the independence movement, Critchlow, Jagan, Lachman Singh, Burnham, and people of that caliber and that era. If I were to ask you this, have we lived up to their expectations of independence?
Definitely not.
Why not?
First of all, what we achieved on that day in 1966 was a sort of a formal independence, what we refer to as flag and anthem independence. Independence, and with all due respect, the early leaders, those who fought for independence, leaders such as Burnham and the others, they understood that independence, right, was just formal, and if there was no substance, then it becomes meaningless. In other words, it was just a beginning. It should be seen as a process to complete the national liberation struggle. In other words, political independence should lead to economic independence. But today, what we are seeing is that we are being dictated to. What we must differentiate between substance and form. What we are seeing is the form, the outward trappings, the pomp and ceremony and all of that, but there's no substance to it. There is no, and that's why we speak about.
Except our laws are made by our own people.
That's right. Oh, it was convenient because Benjamin Disraeli, the one-time British Prime Minister, made a very interesting statement. He said colonies do not cease to be colonies because they're independent. He understood that. He knew what he was talking about, but our leaders don't seem to understand that. Because what we have seen is that they granted you independence, but they control tremendously, and this is where the concept of neocolonialism came in with Kwame Nkrumah. Because Nkrumah, at that time, after he was overthrown, he realized that what was given to him was meaningless unless it had substance.
Lincoln, do you support that position?
Let me tell you, the struggle for independence, which was driven by not only the political but the economic circumstances that existed during the era of the colonials, and even beyond that. Well, it was driven by the indentured sovereigns. We have to take it in full context, slavery and everything. Man, as an animal, always want to improve his circumstance. And the issue of political decisions, those are form the bedrock upon which you will improve your economic circumstances. What we had in 66 was the political thing. What we had after 66, for a period when we started to look at the controlling of the economic heights of this country, while some people see it as something wrong or something bad, but as far as I'm concerned, that was a period when we saw two political leaders, two political giants, Burnham and Jagan, standing up to say that together that we need to control the economic circumstances of this of the people of this country. When we, after a period, the issue of same way as how we have been undermined prior to independence, politically, post-independence, the old drive, political, the old independent drive was also undermined. And I believe
Undermined by whom?
undermined by foreign forces.
Well, then, what did independence mean? If you can be so easily undermined, giving in one hand and taking with another.
Well, I want to tell you, you don't have to go very far to look at what is happening next door in Venezuela. The question here is that while they have been a republic, they are not allowed to determine what happened in their country. So it is the same behavior from the foreigners that existed. But in our case is that we are easily, in our case, we easily get trapped in it. We see every decision.
No, Lincoln, you keep saying we. I mean,
Oh, wait,
are you responsible? Is Gerald responsible? Am I
I talk about
responsible?
we as a country. I'm not talking of we as you, Gerald and myself.
So we essentially, we're contrasting the Jagan and the Burnham, great independence and nationalists,
Yes.
Yeah.
both pre and
Yeah.
post independence,
Yeah.
with those who are willing to sell ourselves out
Correct.
for something.
Correct.
You know,
The-
let me make this point. When you look at our discussions among our leaders who ought to be making decisions in this country that impact our well-being, it is easier. They become decisions speaking among ourselves or agreeing to speak to each other in this country becomes difficult and intractable to arrive at any decision among ourselves. But it is easier for foreign forces to come into this country or foreign people to come into this country.
Get them to talk.
Get our people to talk.
Yeah.
Make decisions. It is not. It is a desire to. It's a desire to have the authority, hold the power, but not a desire to use the power and the authority to develop the people and the country.
Gerald, in terms of is there a contrast? And I think that's what Lincoln is pointing to. That there is a big gulf, a big difference between the political leaders of that era and our current
And
crop
now.
of political
Of
leaders.
course. Of course. At least, regardless of the political the differences, right? Ideologically, there was commonality between what Burnham represented and Chedi Jagan. They were nationalists, and I think both were anti-imperialist, champions of anti-imperialism. They struck the non-aligned commitment to non-aligned policies, the Caribbean being a zone of peace, and a number of other issues. And so, after President Burnham died, we saw a shift. And an opening up. We saw open interference in our domestic affairs, and President Jagan himself, right, even invited the Carter Center in. Once you open up that, once you start that, where does it stop? And I have a problem. I have a serious issue with our leaders, as Lincoln pointed out earlier, not being able to sit down and resolve some of these issues, right? But foreigners, including representatives of the Carter Center, Carter, anybody can come in and then get the results. Something is radically wrong. It shows that there's some level of mental incarceration here. The present PPP as it's constituted today, that's completely divorced, far away from what Chedi Jagan represented, and the same thing of the People's National Congress reform. I don't think they know what independence really is about. I don't see it. I'm seeing this process of recolonization here, and I can cite many cases to prove that. All this nonsense with the anti-terrorism and the financial thing and all of these questions and the money thing that is being imposed on us. Look at the way we are being bullied. You only have to listen. You want evidence of it. Look at it. Look at Bolton. Bolton said the other day that this is our hemisphere.
Yeah.
The countries here is our hemisphere.
And
listen to the man.
Nobody
said anything.
Nobody from the CARICOM or anybody said anything. And that is probably next to Trump.
Yeah.
That guy.
Other than maybe Ralph Gonzalez or Skerritt or somebody standing up in Dominica, but nobody said anything. And you have to look at it. Let's put it in context. United States, the U.S. government position ever since the days of Albert Beveridge, who was a senator. The U.S. has always seen Latin America and the Caribbean as their backyard. Yes, the Monroe Doctrine. And Trump is putting energy resuscitating the Monroe Doctrine. So they've never really, they pay lip service to our independence. They don't really see us that way. For example, Haiti. When did America recognize Haiti independence? Even the countries that Haiti defeated on the battlefield turned around and recognized Haitian independence. United States never did.
Lincoln, you think?
So they don't really, and that's why they believe that they can meddle and interfere. You only have to listen to the representative of the ABC countries, the United States ambassador to this country. They comment on everything. And Britain behaves, the British embassy in this country, High Commission, behaves as though Guyana is a colony. And nobody stand up, none of the politicians, which side of the PPP, APNU, URP, ANOG, none of these. They're all pro-imperialists. And they're afraid of white people. They're afraid of them.
Lincoln, do you think it's easy to talk over Jagan and Burnham and that? Those were the days of Nyerere.
Correct.
Of Kwame and
Nkrumah,
Secretary, Jawaharlal Nehru.
Great man.
Now, is it that we are in a different world? Can we excuse our political leaders for behaving the way they do?
No.
No, let Lincoln answer.
I cannot excuse them. They ought to be standing on this. They are coming after. They are standing on the shoulders of some strong, progressive leaders.
They're not on their
thinkers.
shoulders.
They're standing there.
No.
They are coming behind. These men have set, the men and women have established the bedrock upon which they are standing. I can't excuse them for what is
No,
taking place.
but hold on. If you use that same analogy, you had at independence, who was the president of the general secretary of the TUC?
Polydor.
Yeah,
Polly. Polly was a giant.
Yes.
I'm not suggesting you
So
can't get there. But would you compare our crop of trade union leaders with the trade union leaders of that era?
No. Let me point out to you what is happening in this society. When you go back to the records of the trade union movement, and you read the letters or documents prepared by these guys who preceded us, these are guys who 90% of them never had high school education.
Did Polly have a tertiary education?
No.
Neither high school.
But was well read.
Polly did not have
No.
secondary education.
No, Polly never had secondary education.
Primary.
And Polly stood up with the best,
Yes.
both in the government service and in the private sector, and matched them toe to
The
toe.
man was good,
I was a reader, serious reader.
right? But what the man did was
Winslow
the man
Carrington.
read. The man was a avid reader. Unlike
Yeah.
what you don't find now, people don't read.
No.
So the point I'm making, we judge politicians harshly, but the standard of journalism, the standard of accounting, the standard of law, have we, and this is why, what progress after 53 years of
But I
independence?
want to tell you, you know why you have to judge them? Because we still look forward that they will be given macro leadership to what takes place in society. You have to understand that. Let me tell you this. You don't have to like Burnham or Gerald. Let me take you back there. When those guys speak, there was always something you can learn from, something you could have learned from them. Right? Listen to them. Listen to their speeches. They were thinkers. That's
Yeah,
the
and you know
story.
what? They didn't have access to the kind of literature. They didn't have access
No.
to the internet and the type of thing. We're so damn lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A senior political leader said to me, he said, the members of parliament, for example, he said, all those people you see in parliament, right? He said, you talking about reading, right? And he was talking about the political way. He said they don't read, they ain't got time for book. He said maybe, and he identified 2 to 3 persons. He said they don't even read the parliamentary briefs, much as to read books.
Look,
We have things like, you ask people, we're talking about the era, we're talking about globalization. We're seeing that the nation state is being eroded. Our sovereignty is being taken away. We're worried about Venezuela. Our sovereignty is being taken away. We go to the United Nations and other bodies and all that, and we are being bullied. We are told, they actually come up to you and tell you how they expect you to vote. And nobody stands up to them. Nobody stands up to them. And what's interesting, I would like to know, recently the United Nations, the court, the International Court of Justice, the General Assembly
Yes.
took the vote against Britain.
Britain, yes.
And
Britain
when they
is
took
very
away the
upset.
Chagos Islands from Mauritius,
Yeah.
when they forcibly removed, in 1968 to 72, when they removed people from the
Yes.
island,
Yeah.
and to make way for the American military base in
Base.
Diego Garcia. And even some of the British allies abstention. Portugal and them even voted against Britain. Portugal, Greece, and Switzerland voted against them. And there were 50-something abstentions. I will bet my last dollar. I wonder where Guyana voted. Guyana would not have voted for that against the British, in terms of the islands being given back to Mauritius. That underlying position that we had years ago under Burnham, we would have voted on that issue the same way we would have voted with the Palestinians. But we abstention.
Well, you talk about that and the British. You have the Argentinians as well.
Correct?
Which side is Guyana favor?
Correct?
So, Lincoln, you're not normally as reserved as you are tonight.
I'm not confused, but I'm really concerned about what is taking place. Very concerned.
Well, look.
Chris, let me tell you something. we, over recent weeks, I've been looking at the behavior at the political level, the dance at the political level. And I'm asking myself, is it that our leaders now, some of them decide that they are prepared to preside over this country at any price, any cost, even if it being that they are being treated as if they're a colony, this is a colony.
Well,
I am getting that impression. I am getting that, you know.
Well, they would like approbation from
well,
some of the people.
you see, one
That's
of
what
the
they're looking
things
for.
that
They
with
want almost
Burnham and those
recognition.
leaders, with Burnham, and as Chris mentioned some of the names before, like Sekou Toure, Kwame Nkrumah, Kenyatta, and those people, and Nehru.
And we
Those
have-
leaders were
and we-
transformational leaders.
Hold on, we also had people within the Caribbean.
Of course, the Manley,
Barrow.
Barrow, yes, Errol Walton Barrow. So they were
Don't forget St. Vincent.
Yep, correct. They were transformational leaders. But we have today, what we are seeing is, we have people who are just contented with managing the plantation. They've been reduced to satraps.
And not doing a very good job
Yeah.
of it.
They're not. They don't want to transform anything. They just want to be managers, political managers. So
But-
they're inserted into the empire, and they don't mind going along.
But you know, Guyana, we came out of independence with a 1966 constitution
Yeah.
in which the head of state was still the Queen
Yeah.
of the United Kingdom. We then decided, no, that's not good enough for us. We wanted independence, independent status as a republic. We decided, no, we're not going to be sending our appeals to the Privy Council.
Yeah.
We severed all of that. That surely was progress, wasn't it?
Correct. I agree.
Yes.
And
What we did was
what progress?
what we put in place
There's a reforce.
is an institution, right? But the institution has to be activated by people, with a vision. We don't believe in it. Let me tell you something. All of that was to say that we are independent and we're going to make our own decisions, but it didn't stop there. We didn't follow through. In fact, we didn't. There are other things apart from putting these type of institutions in place. Behavior. How are we going to treat? Are we going to subject ourselves and our citizens to being to the same behavior when you, or the same treatment when you, as if you're in a colony? That's what we end up with.
Well, the employer-employee relationship. Take your private companies. How different is it now from then?
What?
How different is the employer-employee relationship now different from then? Despite the fact that you have had some of the most path-breaking developments in labor legislation.
The attitudes are very different. What you could have had, let me tell you what you could have had in the 60s, the 70s, the type of decisions would have been made. An employer would have think twice to do the things that they are doing, that some are doing right now.
And the reason for that?
Right? Because they knew that those who are the custodian of the laws of this country, from a political perspective, would not have countenanced this behavior. You know, let me. I believe I had the opportunity to talk about this before. There's a famous story about a man in bauxite. He was the president of the industrial branch of Mackenzie. His name was Roy Drakes. Justice Roy Drakes, his father. He went to Louis Mowbray on an issue. And when he discussed with Mowbray said, he's not going to budge. He said, well, but the people are out already. He said, who people? He said, check the Washapan Road. The people were walking up already. And he said, Mowbray said, Mowbray was the Denver bigwig. He said, look, you have to go back to work before I talk with you. And they ended up at the Labour Ministry. And Carrington was the Labour, not Carrington. What the other guy name? Who was Merriman?
Claude Merriman?
Claude Merriman was the Labour Minister.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was. Yeah,
Right?
yeah, he was. Correct.
And my understanding, Merriman called him.
Claude was
asked him
when 57 and
This was in 60s.
61.
60,
He was, yeah.
65.
Okay.
65, 60.
Yeah, he sent for, Merriman sent for him. And he refused to ask the chief labor officer to call him. He didn't come. The next day he turned up. And Merriman was having a meeting with the union. And he pushed the door and walked in because he knew the union was in there. And Merriman asked, who are you? He says, Louis Mowbray. Right? Power. Merriman said, what? He said, let me tell you this. I called you and you refused to come. Today you turn up and you push my door. I didn't invite you in here. Get out! Right?
That can't happen now.
No!
That can't happen now.
But I want to give you another example. You might like this. The
That
University
can't
of
happen now.
Ghana.
Yes.
Right?
Could you imagine Clive Thomas as the leader of the union at university being treated the way the union leaders of today at the campus are being treated?
No, that
Let
couldn't.
me say to you that even during Clive era as chairman, while there were conflicts, the guys were smart. They were smart. They were very, very smart. We don't compare a Clive with as a trade union leader.
But
with
that's not the
leaders
only
that we
issue,
have.
though, Lincoln. I take your point, but it depends on who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Right?
Can you imagine
Yeah.
a Griffith?
Yeah.
Getting away.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
words you use.
Yeah.
Then, with what Griffith gets away with now,
Let me
defying all the
let me-
norms
let
Yeah.
me-
of industrial relations,
let me
Yeah.
contempt for the
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
let me
and the university
Yeah.
community.
let me tell you something. Here again we come. I'm talking about the era that we are operating in and the leaders that we do have.
No, but we're saying, my
No,
question
no,
is,
let me- let
could
me-
this have happened? That's my
No,
question.
I am saying to you that the climate at the university would not have been the way it is today.
But then you could make the same point about the politics or about the business.
That's
then.
right.
No.
Listen,
Well,
we can't say, oh, this would have been the standard then and now for in respect of one thing. But if you're drawn into a parallel situation, you say no, there's a difference.
No, what I'm saying, Chris, you see, you are taking a different line to me on this matter. I'm telling you the atmosphere that we are operating in then to now. I told you what Louis Mowbray, the issue with Louis Mowbray, how it was treated, and it was treated by a politician, right? Today is that the politicians take an hands-off approach to dealing with UG. It's an hands-off. And you understand me? The union said that to me. that look here.
But all you're doing there is explaining it.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing. Is what about it?
When you
Why
say,
do we have it?
Why-
Why should it be tolerated? You want to?
you know, first of all, this thing about UG, you got to look at brother what's happening, right? What's the role of the Ministry of Education in this? What's the president, what's the government doing about it? UG seemed to be an entity unto itself, just the administration doing as they like. And I agree, I saw Kisun made a point, which I've noticed. You got universities.
That's right, yeah?
Yeah. You got universities like University of Auckland, 35,000 students. 35,000 students is servicing, and they don't have that level of bureaucracy. UG with less than 6,000 students. Look at how many deputy vice chancellors and directors of this and this. It's like having an army of 3,500 and you have 26 generals. It's unheard of.
Professor Griffith calls it his cabinet.
You know, and this is, I don't know, you know, it's ridiculous.
well,
How do we?
And nobody's doing anything. Nobody's doing anything about it.
No, Lincoln is. That's
Nobody's
what Lincoln
doing
is
anything
saying.
about it.
Lincoln is saying nobody, not the politicians. The Minister of Labour, who is the Minister of Labour? Scott?
no, the Minister of Labour is the minister that has
Responsibility for it is,
Labour is Amnali,
yes.
She's been
Social
very quiet these
cohesion
days.
fall.
right?
She's been very quiet these days.
Well, I don't know if she's been quiet, but what I know is that over recent times we have been able to get her and talking to her about matters.
When I say we again,
I'm talking from the trade union perspective. It's easier to get her.
yes, but that's a trade union matter, the University of Guyana.
Yeah.
So is Lincoln Lewis this special?
No, I call her when it's necessary for me to call her on a matter. I call her.
Let's talk.
Let me
Yeah,
tell you
you-
something.
No, you see,
before
you know,
go
this-
on,
this-
before
hold
you
on,
get-
hold on. Let-
On the issue we were talking about independence. It's all back to
No,
that.
no, but
Go
let
on.
me
Alright,
make this
yeah.
point. We can't run away from some things. These institutions, yeah, like University of Guyana, is a quasi-state institution. Is that right? It requires political leadership at some point. You can have a council, you can have all of that.
When you say it requires political leadership, are you suggesting a state body must be led by some
I'm not
political
I am
doctrine
not-
or political person? No,
I
you
am-
said it needs
no,
political
I said
leadership.
Political leadership. Political leadership don't mean
Not within the
adopting-
body. Not within
Not
the body.
within the body.
Okay.
What
Well,
I'm
I'm glad you're
talking about-
clarifying that.
Let
Very
me
important.
say to you, you must be able to see what is your developmental plan for this country. And if this is the only state tertiary institution, university that we have, what is the role of that university?
Well, let me ask you this, Lincoln. If you don't have a national development plan,
Plan.
how are you going to get that?
Exactly.
We are rudderless.
Exactly.
That's the
So
reality
why
part.
are you-
Exactly.
Why are you asking me to make a comment or something?
But you know,
You have an
when
answer.
we were talking about
I'm asking you.
when we were talking about independence, it
Yes.
was always be linked with the
Some
decolonization
vision, yes.
process, the decolonization process, right? And decolonization of the process. What is the role, as Chris rightfully pointed out, in a national development plan? What is the role of the university? What is the role of the university? That should be clearly identified.
Well, is that you're asking me about independence?
You know,
Let
but
me
we
tell
have
you
we have
that-
a hands off because it's all part of this neoliberal model, right? That you just leave in the state. What is the state? What's the role of the state? What is the state doing? What is the role of the state in national development?
By the way,
there is no.
By the way, Lincoln, I don't know if you will agree with me. This is the largest government we've ever had post-independence.
Yeah.
How does it compare in terms of efficiency and competence and addressing national issues with what went before?
Let me again say to you. You asked me
Before
About-
being in the previous
you asked-
administration?
Yes,
Or-
before we're
Or
talking
yeah,
with
yeah.
Independence
Yeah.
era
Let me-
compared with
correct,
now.
Let me tell you this. You asked me about the performance or the quality of leadership that we had in the trade union at a certain era, a certain period. I've said to you that those men and women, they were not, they didn't go to high school. 90% of them didn't go to high school. Right.
George Bowman, you remember him?
Yeah. Those they
Shovelman.
they
Shovelman,
never- they never-
absolutely.
Yes,
They never went to go.
You
to
know
high
your
school.
history, chap.
And when they go there, but they perform.
Yeah.
They perform well, very well, right? What in the public service or the civil service at the time, those people were very good too, proficient in delivering a service. We lost somewhere where the quality of people that we are getting are not the same.
Yeah, but Lincoln,
No.
you cannot blame the people for weak leadership.
But Chris, don't confuse this.
Leaders also make a good team.
I want to say this, Chris. You got to take 3 for 1 at this time. Is that telling you?
Hold on. We have just said, in those days, and I mean Harry Lal and
Yeah.
George Bowman and you had a lot of people, very little formal education,
Yeah.
and now you are telling me, for the current crop, many of whom are professionals, you need 3
When
now.
you say professionals, what do you mean?
They
What do you mean
belong
professional?
to professions.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Lawyers.
They
accomplice
belong to
stuff.
professions.
I want to tell you something. Chris, don't let me argue tonight.
No, go on,
I
argue.
want to tell
I'm
you
fine.
something. I want to tell you this, Chris.
No, I was asking you a simple question. Whether you're saying you need 3 of them to match one that went before.
You're asking me that?
Yes.
Let me telling you. Because
Oh my
you
God.
must get 9. Let me point out to you, Chris. I have taken a position now that some people like your profession, anytime we're counting, I'm talking about lawyers, right? I'm going to tell you something. There are times I believe, when I listen to them, I believe that they went to law school, but then they're not lawyers. Okay? Same way how he tell you, he made a point a little while ago about in the parliament, the parliamentarians don't read, right? I am going to tell you something. I don't believe that they just read the law. So if I'm saying to you that that is a profession where you expect people to read and you expect good lawyers, you expect good men and women, right? And you're not getting that result from them. What do you think outside in? Use that as a yardstick to judge what taking place. Chris, let me tell you something. Not because you may have gone to university, right? That makes you a pro. And you
But,
did
but Lincoln, it does equip you
no,
to be able to.
it
ought
does.
to.
Of
It
course.
ought to
That's what it
equip
does.
you.
All right, that's what
It
I'm
not
saying.
does. It ought to.
It does equip you. Now, it's what you do with it.
Correct.
It's because you have these professional politicians who are there for the
That's right.
for the perks.
That's
Well,
right.
you get professional
right.
politicians all over the
They,
world.
you see,
No, but Lincoln, I always say, I come back, I pay taxes here, chap.
Yeah.
I'm concerned. Don't tell me about all over the world. I'm concerned about here.
Yeah.
We have had better. And for you to say,
I am not
you know,
saying-
3 for 1. I mean, it used to be 2 for 1. Now it's 3 to 1.
Yeah.
3 educated people to 1 pragmatic. I don't want to call them uneducated. They were probably more educated than a lot of this lot we have now.
I will not doubt.
you know, Chris, you remember Franz Fanon
Yes?
wrote in their
Black skin, white
yeah,
mask.
Black Skin, White Mask and the Wretched Idiot. And he addressed the issue of the national bourgeoisie in the middle class. And Cabral developed this whole thing and spoke about this, the crisis is a thing we have to pay to the middle class. In the early days, when you mentioned some of those leaders, some of those transformational, some of those revolutionary leaders, right? These were people who, many of them came out of that middle class, but they committed what? They did what Cabral called committed class suicide, right? This middle class now that we are seeing, not only in Guyana, but in the Caribbean and many states of Africa and so, right? They're not committed to challenging what's happened about imperialism. They're not committed to challenging foreign capital. They're not committed. They're just facilitating the plunder and looting of their countries. Imagine after Sekou Touré gone, Kwame Nkrumah, Modibo Keïta, all those people gone. Imagine today, as we speak about 53 years independence, 80% of Africa is owned by non-Africans. 80%. Which was not possible. That was not so. Right? Now we are seeing it here. If you come here now, we are seeing the giveaway of our resources, right? Multinational foreign corporations and companies coming into this country to loot it, and it's being called investment. Who's going to benefit?
I want to tell you.
That's really good.
I want to tell you something. Myself and people part of this issue. The children and grandchildren of those who fought slavery and the grandchildren of those who fought
Indentureship.
Today they fight for their own place in this country. People coming from overseas get a piece of land and get all tax concession. And the man who born, bred here, live here, continue.
But who's facilitating that?
One trying to
Who's
find out
facilitating
to you.
it?
And when you talk about these type of things, people call you all kind of names. You shouldn't. Let me tell you, buddy. Well, I want to tell you something. They're going to continue calling me names. That's for them I'm saying.
Well,
they got to call me names because I believe we have to protect not ourselves, but the generation to come.
but that would
Well,
need
This thing
you
here,
need patriots to do that.
Well, first of all,
Nationalists to do
when
that.
you get a Raphael Trotman going to sign a contract like he did, forget his lies, and he sat right here and lied to me and lied to the nation about that contract. That he said, "Oh, I just tinker with it." No, he signed a new contract. Gave away. We have a situation, we all know. In the old days, prior to independence, BG was Booker's Guyana.
Yeah.
What's happening now? Now, we hear how great oil is going to make us.
Yeah.
You know who controls one person, one company? Controls more than half of those petroleum resources. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And we did it voluntarily.
Yeah. And then we're speaking of
When
53
you
years.
say- Hold on.
We're speaking of independence.
Is it voluntary or they didn't know what they were doing?
I don't know which is worse. For you to suggest that Trotman didn't know what he's doing and the cabinet didn't know what they're doing.
That's serious.
That is, as I said, I really can't say which I think is worse. I mean, you don't have people talking. Oh, how big and rich we gonna be?
Big and rich.
Chris,
Like Equatorial Guinea
Yeah. And do you know
or Niger or
the
or Chad.
Petroleum Act says the very first, other than the interpretation, says the hydrocarbon resources of this country belongs to the people.
Yep. Yep.
And our government say, no, we can give it away.
I want to tell you something. Listen to me. It's not only not only that group. Let me tell you something. Let me give you an example. Before oil came, there was granite inside there. There's bauxite there that we in it.
Mm-hmm.
In Jamaica, all the bauxite reserves are held by the Jamaica Bauxite Institute. If a company goes there, they determine, the institute will determine whether they apply for reserve, they will say if you can get it. In Guyana, all the bauxite reserves were held by Bitco. Mr. Brassington take the richest one in Linden and give it to Cambio, right? And when Cambio get it, the company that they get for $1, carry up the thing and they sell it for 46 million.
Yes,
46
yes.
million.
Now,
Right? You don't have those type of things could not have happened. But let me give you one.
But we had it too earlier when we sold out Demerara Timbers too.
This thing started sometime before. Let me tell you what. When Omai came here, Desmond Hite administration had negotiated 5% royalty and 5% gold. Right? You have to get 5% of the gold, 5%.
5% share, yes, that's correct. That's correct.
And the share came in gold.
That's correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Samines, when they came to power, reduce it to 2.5.
5, correct.
That was the royalty. That was the
royalty.
Yeah,
The
to
royalty.
2.5.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
So
true.
these type of things,
Raymond himself pointed out.
Yeah.
these things
The
are.
question is, what are we doing about it now? That's the question.
Correct.
You want to know what we're doing about it
But you
now?
finish.
We are talking about it now. We hope that.
No, we are. Yeah, go on.
We hope. I hope that the consciousness being aroused among the younger generation.
Where them who
Where?
spending half the time,
I'm disappointed.
having the meal,
No,
and
no.
can barely find them out because they're looking at their cell phone and texting. Which young people are you talking about? Now, there's no question that they're the future. There's no question. There's no question that they're talented.
So you're saying really that the future is that we're going to return to a colony. Am I reading?
Well, the future is that we are heading in that direction.
A neo colony.
What is your economic philosophy?
That's
Look
right.
at the AFC
Yep.
manifesto
Yep.
of 2011, and they boast how they drive this government, that they hold all the key ministries. They do. Now, you say you have the ears of key ministers.
I never said I have the news of King Minister. Don't put words in my mouth.
You're pointing at me.
Yes. I said I have access
Oh,
to
you
the minister.
access, okay.
Right? I can call her and can talk with her about these matters. About matters of labor.
Well, I hope you talk about matters like these. You have a very prominent voice. You're a national voice.
Well, so are you.
Well, we try and we little thing here, you know.
Oil could flow like water. It's not about the oil.
Oh.
It's about the system that we have in place. It's about the economic, as Chris said, the economic philosophy, right? It's about the political will of a government to take control or to initiate a national development plan that would lead to democratize the economy, not have the wealth of this country concentrated in the hands of a few, whether it's external entities or a few local businessmen and companies dominating the entire economy. And the people will have to wake up. People will have to see. People need to recognize, come to grips with it, that all the political parties on the political landscape in this country, they're not committed to empowering the masses of people.
Well, let me ask Lincoln.
They're not committed to. They're only good. They need the vote for the people. They only need your vote.
Let me ask Lincoln.
And then they
this.
discard you.
Let me ask Lincoln this. Because we're talking.
Other than OVP,
We talk.
because we
All
are
right, all
yes.
right.
Okay.
Okay. He uses this program to sell his thing, but that's fine. That's fine. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
You
But Lincoln, would you
Sylvester
say?
did that, haven't
Would
he?
you say the working class in Guyana is 53 years better off than they were in 1966?
Definitely.
The gap,
no.
the poverty,
Worse.
poverty. We have not moved with time. We have not. The question here is not whether you're getting $4 a week, but what a $4 could have
Goodbye.
right? In comparison to what you're getting now, you know, we have not moved economically. Politically, we have declined. We do not have
Morally,
um,
moral degeneration.
the as a country the stature that you know that we had at the international level, you know, in prosecuting issues that impact the well-being in shaping this world. We don't have that anymore. We have gone. I want. Let me tell you something. I want articulate.
This is
about
plain
them.
talk, you know. Go
Yeah.
on.
Me articulate about them. Let me tell you something. When I lived in England, worked in England, and I listened what happened in Georgetown, I had one perspective. When I came to Georgetown, live in Georgetown, work in Georgetown, I have another perspective of this country. I want to tell you, I never see myself, I never believe that I can be a minister in a government when I live in England. I never do. But when I don't have a dream to be a minister. I don't have a dream to be a politician. I don't have a dream to be a president. But when I see what happened in this country over the last decade, I want to tell you something. I can run this country better than anyone in most part. Please, I'll get to tell you.
Well, you know, in the olden days, again, we come back to this. The trade union movement was the cradle. Trade union movement and local government were the cradles for national
Correct.
political leadership.
Leadership. That's right.
There you are. You're ripe and fit.
Yeah.
Unlike me, you're fit and proper.
I want to tell you if it's a proper.
No.
Right? I don't have the ambition, but I tell you something. When I look at what happened, what passed for leadership, you know, I want to tell you something. They left of disrespect that is being shown to the citizens of this country.
Leadership must be, we must have the political leaders or the so-called politicians must be servant leaders. They need to set examples. For example, if you're the Minister of Health, then you should be using the health services provided in this country. And your job is to get it running and
Or
fix it.
if you remember the government.
Right? Not you're the Minister of Health, and if you get sick, you're traveling to the United States or you're going to Ireland or somewhere else. That nonsense
You
have to
don't
cut
have
out.
to go very far. Bonham
Right?
died
We
in
need
the
to fix.
hospital.
Okay, we need to fix it. Fix it.
And he didn't fall down at work and they run into the hospital. He go inside there to do a surgery and die there.
I could turn the hospital around in 6 months.
Well, you know, this question.
Try me.
This
Where's the
I would turn the hospital around the health system in this country.
You
The
would turn the
Georgetown
health system
Hospital,
around.
the Georgetown Hospital around in 6 months.
You know, when you think of the money that is being spent or misspent, you want to weep, because if you get an average person, the same person who didn't have that tertiary education,
Yeah.
they could do so much more.
Yeah.
Look at what
Yeah.
Patterson,
Yeah.
look at the mess Patterson has
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
at the international airport.
Yeah.
You pay more to get less.
Less.
What kind of
Uh-huh.
mentality is this?
You saw the flooding?
I mean, what's going on?
Yeah.
But
And that-
are
that-
they not, let me ask you something. We don't have our own engineers and planners and architects and so on that work.
Well, we don't trust it. We don't trust and respect our own people.
And American Airlines will be paying less to land here too. You know they'll be paying less.
Is that a fact?
It was stated in the papers that they will be paying, the carriers, they will be paying less than BB and those planes. The rich, that BB, Caribbean Airlines will be paying more.
Oh, that can happen. When we talk,
Well, look, we haven't given, American Airlines given edge over regional carriers. American Airlines stopped coming to this country years ago, many years ago. And when no carrier was coming here, even Suriname Airways wasn't coming, it was Caribbean Airlines. It was Caribbean Airlines. And you're treating the regional carrier. We are members of, we are meant to be part of CARICOM. And you're treating a CARICOM member state in such a way, an institution in the member state, and then you're giving the American Airlines preference. It shows, and it's we're talking about independence. It's the, you know, I spoke about decolonization,
yes.
right?
It's a mental thing.
Yeah.
That's what Frantz Fanon
Yeah,
was
Frantz
saying.
Fanon addressed that. Black skin, white mass. We have CLR James called them Afro-Saxons and Indo-Saxons. People who don't want to transform this plantation. They just want to manage it and keep it that way. And we're not seeing anything. So after 50 years, what we have?
so have you want to beat me? But tell them no.
No. But Lincoln, you're the biggest voice around.
Boy, I want to tell you this. Do people listen? There are times I ask myself if people are listening.
Well, do they? We come back.
You're doing what
Do
you
they
have to
read? Do they read? Do the ministers care about reading? Do they really? Do they care about your country? It's a professional thing now. I mean, it's shocking to see how ministers they're not servant leaders anymore.
No.
That's the last thing you
These
can
people
call them.
They're careerists. People who look after their own self-interest. And that's your typical middle class, post-colonial politician. Post-independence.
Just a couple minutes more. Civil society. Is it better now than it was then?
Not vibrant.
What you say what?
Civil society, is it more vibrant?
What do you describe as civil society?
Well, parts other than the governmental
sector.
I believe that what people do now, civil society, is that leaders just jockey to get to the corridor of power, to be an invitation to cocktail and that type of thing. I don't believe they believe in anything. A serious problem.
But if you're saying that, I mean,
Then
I hope we haven't depressed readers, viewers. But if this is the situation, then we're almost hopeless. Political, social, economic, financial, we know better off. We depend on some loan from somebody.
Yep.
We can't live within our means, so we go borrowing. We have professional travelers in our cabinet.
Not only there.
That's what we have passing for government now.
Yeah.
You want me to tell you this? Because we are not prepared to hold politicians.
We address these issues.
If we're not prepared to hold politicians accountable, right? That's why we get in. That's why the politicians behave like
But what can you do?
What we can do?
Hold on.
We have mechanisms.
You have elections. You have 5-year elections, and then you people who may not even want to concede on elections.
Chris, I want to ask you something. Oh, you just come out and you see it's your perception that something is wrong. You write about it. You talk about it, right? There are other people who come out too, right? Why those in civil society and things, why they don't come out on top? You know why is it? We always want to hide behind somebody. Just because they don't want to be identified that they're standing up in defense of principles.
Thank you.
We gotta
Thank you.
we have to complete the national liberation.
15
struggle.
seconds. 15 seconds, and that's it. Okay, well, Mr. Gerald
The
Perreira,
struggle continues
Mr. Lincoln.
for true independence.
Yes, 53 years after.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding that, fellow Guyanese, you have a wonderful Independence weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for joining me, and good night.